All right, so let's talk about probably what is the most important of the modules that you will work with in your web applications, and that is the stream module. All right, so basically, what is a data stream? All right, so a data stream is a memory structure. So when I say memory structure, is just like any other structure, a class, an array, etc. It's a structure, but this structure is primarily stored in memory or used in memory. All right, so it's a memory structure that are readable, writable, or actually both. So you can read to it, you can read from it, you can write to it, or you can do both. All right, and we use these streams all over Node.js. We use it a lot when we're accessing files. We use it when we're reading data from HTTP requests, which we'll discuss a little bit later on, and several other areas. All right. Um, we primarily use a stream to transfer data from one location to another, right? We want to transfer from the client to the server to the client, blah, blah, blah. And we also use it to expose, they also expose events, right? So we know what events are. So we expose events such as data, which is when the data is available to us to be read, when an error occurs, and when the stream is actually ended and there's no more data to it. So it's a very powerful data structure because it exposes those events. All right, we'll commonly use it for HTTP responses on the client, HTTP requests on the server, file system read streams, where we're streaming zip files, zlib streams, crypto streams for cryptography, working with TCP sockets, child processes such as standard out and standard error, or the process for standard in. All right. Now, one of the most important methods is the read method, right, which allows us to read data, right? Um, Now the events that are important here, and you'll see this in the reading that you have, but the events are data in, close, and error. These events are very important because they are fired when certain events occur that we may want to respond to. So the data event occurs when we're reading and it turns the stream into flowing mode, which means it continuously keeps flowing data in. All right, and so each time a new data value comes in, the data event gets called, and we can handle that data event with a callback. All right, and then once all the data is gone, the on event will get fired. Excuse me, the end event will get fired, which signifies that there's no more data to be provided. All right. And close gets executed when the underlying resource, such as the file that we're reading from, has been closed. And if an error occurs, you'll actually see the error event. All right. So let's take a look at an example. All right. So to work with streams, we want to implement our own objects and then inherit from the stream object. All right. So to do so, we first need to import this module called util. So here's your first example of importing a module. Whenever we import a module, we use require and the name of the module. So we're requiring util, and we're assigning that module to a variable called util. All right. Now, here we're going to import the stream module. So we're going to require stream, and we're going to assign it to a variable called stream. All right. So this next line is how we inherit uh, from something in Node.js. So util.inherit. So the inherits method is available on util, and we're going to pass it our object, which is answers, which you'll see in just a second, and we're going to pass it the object that we want to inherit from, which is stream.readable. All right. So here's answers, and it should be familiar to you because it's just a constructor function. Answers takes an option as a parameter. All right. So then the first thing you need to do to make it readable is you need to call readable, right? So, and you're going to pass it this, which is answers, and you're going to pass it the option. All right. We're setting up here our readable value. So this dot quotes, yes, no, and maybe. It's an array. And we're going to set an index equal to 0. All right. Then we need to implement the underscore read method, which is coming from readable, right? So you'll always have to implement read in order to stream your data back. All right. So we're going to implement it on the prototype. Again, this is coming from Core JavaScript, so if you're not familiar with it, go back and watch those lectures from Core JavaScript. All right, so if our index is greater than the length of our quotes, then we're going to push null onto the stack. All right, or else we're going to push the actual quote at that particular index. All right, so pushing in this term is not push as far as pushing something into an array. but push means push the data back. So push is used in a different way than you're used to with arrays. Then we're going to increment our index. All right. All right. So here we create an instance of answers. All right. And we're calling direct read. So if we want to read the first element in our string, we call the read function. All right, and that will return just the first element. So in this case, we should get back yes, okay, because it's the first element in the array. All right, now here's an example of using the events. So to use an event, we use r.on. So we're saying on this event. All right, what event we're concerned about? Well, we're concerned about the data event. And remember, we said data turns our stream into flowing mode, and it's going to start streaming that data back. So in that case, we need a callback to handle whenever a new data point is streamed back. All right, so here's our callback function. We use anonymous functions for the callbacks. All right, so it's going to automatically pass the next data value to that function. All right, so in this case, we see one line, so it's going to say callback read, and it's going to pass the next value, which is no, because we've already read the first value with r.read. All right, so we're going to see callback read, and we're going to see no. Then it's going to call the next data element, call the callback, passing that value to the callback, and it's going to say callback read, and then we're going to see maybe. All right, now we have another event here that we're going to register to handle, which is the end event. So there's our on again. And which event are we handling? The end event. Remember, we said end gets emitted by the stream when data is no longer available. So when we've run out of data, the end event is going to get emitted, and then this callback function that we give it is going to handle it. In this case, we're just going to say no more answers. Now, I know this may seem daunting right now, but we'll work with it more and more and more and more and more. All right? All right, so let's take a look at what happens when we run it. All right, so there we go. With the direct read, we got yes. There's our two data events, callback read no, callback read maybe, and there's what our callback that got handled when end got emitted, which was no more answers. All right, take care.